Yeah, no, it's interesting you say, "Are you Luke?" I'm like, because a lot of people have asked me, like, "Is there no more than one person that works for your podcast?" I'm like, "No, it's just me." I just say it's Luke because I don't want to just be like, "Hey, can you come on my podcast channel?"
Of course,
Introductions,
yeah,
right?
yeah. You want to be professional and stuff. Yeah, I
Got
get
to
it.
stay professional. I know. Actually, to kind of start off topic here, I know typically with some podcast channels or a lot of people, I know there's been kind of been an increase since the pandemic started. A lot of people try to get interviews with fighters or anybody, right? And they just like they don't even introduce themselves. They'll just do a shout out like, "Hey, come on my podcast." And it's like, I mean, most fighters, I think, don't really care that much. But it's like, yeah, but it's like, come on, like stay
Yeah, yeah,
professional, right?
yeah, yeah. For the most part, I mean, fighters are usually pretty cool about it, but I totally hear what you're saying.
Well, I do appreciate you coming on the podcast today, taking your time. I know you got to do train some people. So, what are you like running into class, or what did you say you were doing?
We have a class that starts like in a little over an hour. So if we would have just kind of a little bit different time,
Hmm.
then it would have been a little conflict and stuff. But we're good now. So yeah, just I co-own Pura Vida, so teaching classes, training, getting my own training in, teaching group classes, private training with the fighters, all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm. Well, that's pretty cool, man. Yeah. So, how are things in Wisconsin at the moment with the COVID and everything?
um, kind of neutral. We do live in the city of Milwaukee, so a little bit stricter
Hmm.
guidelines as far as that goes. We had moved locations with our gym. We were expanding and didn't want to pay a rent anymore, so we bought a building, relocated the gym, got everything all situated, did all the construction and stuff ourselves on it. And shortly after we reopened, we had to close because of COVID. So
Hmm.
we were closed for 2 months completely. And then once we reopened, we had a lot of strict regulations and stuff and guidelines that we had to follow. And, things have been getting easier and easier. More of the capacity allowed over the months have gone by and stuff like that. So, I mean, we still do protocol once you walk in and leave and stuff, but once we're out on the mats, it's pretty much back to normal here.
Oh, nice, nice. And I know that that could be so frustrating though with everything closing down. And I mean, it's not easy on a business. I mean, I know you own the gym, and second, when I do continue with that, so I know you said that like I know that you own the gym, but you kept saying we. So like, do you have someone that owns part of it, or what's going on there?
Jay Clip and I own the gym together,
Okay, okay.
and Solo Acosta is one of our head instructors and is basically like our right hand man for running the gym. So the three of us teach the majority of the classes. We have some other assistant instructors as well,
Hmm.
especially when we're gone with like a UFC fight all week or something. We have other coaches around, Coach Ben and Mike and Josh.
Hmm.
But the three of us kind of make the decisions around the gym and are usually there cornering, the majority of the fighters and stuff around the gym. Yeah, I mean, during COVID, it was a struggle with the adult program stayed pretty consistent.
Hmm.
Uh, I think I don't know, like a lot of guys in their 20s just think they're gonna like live forever and didn't really care about this stuff. They just wanted to.
Yeah.
The kids program was really hurt really bad. A
Oh,
lot
I
of parents
believe
were
it.
taking this thing pretty seriously. So, uh, luckily, we're not a martial arts school that really our focus isn't the kids program. I mean, we do have a solid kids program, but you know what I mean. There's so
Right.
many schools where like kids is their main focus, and they don't really have like a fight team. And I know a couple of gyms around the area that were really, really killed with that. But our focus has always been a fight team, and of course we've got regular adult classes for the person that just wants to get a good workout in and stuff. But we're trying to create UFC champions, so we've got a pretty big fight team, and everybody was real just trying to get back to training. Montel fought in the UFC in July
Yeah.
on Fight Island, and that was difficult trying to get him ready because we're still under a ton of restrictions, and
Hmm.
he only had a couple of training partners. We didn't want him getting COVID or one of us, so we were trying to kind of like isolate ourselves from the rest of the group and really small group training to get him trying to get him ready for that fight. Now it's a lot easier. Things have come more back to normal.
Well, it's really interesting. I mean, a lot of fighters really had that problem, especially last year, because with last year when COVID really just started and everything was hitting or shit was hitting the fan. I mean, there's a lot of fighters. I mean, Max Holloway, one of the guys, he was training online. I mean, his coach was telling him through camp, like on Zoom or whatever. And it's like, I mean, like, what kind of training is that, you know? And I mean, still worked out
Yeah,
in the fight, I guess. But
yeah.
um,
For a 5 round world championship fight, I mean that's crazy.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, like where I'm from, I think it really impacted a lot of places here. I mean, we don't really like where I'm from, we don't really have gyms that we're having, we do have some MMA gyms here, but it's more for like the regional the regional scene. It's for like local shows like amateur things like that.
Yep.
But we have some BJJ gyms where I mean it's based more. I mean they have a lot of kids classes, things like that, and kids just can't go. So it sucks. I mean we have a place called Concept BJJ, and I don't know how they're able to keep it open.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean I think everyone was really affected. And just kind of moving on here. Because I know you need to get to do some coaching there. So, what is it like to kind of train like with people like Leah Letson and O'Day and all these high level athletes?
It's been really great. I mean, obviously, I knew some of these Jamie Simmons and Leah. Their very first class ever at an MMA gym was at
Hmm.
our, so I I was part of the group, that taught them how to stand in a stance, and then all the way up to getting them to the UFC. So
Hmm.
that's really cool, doing that. And then it's also been cool to get some fighters from some other areas and some other gyms where they're just looking for like that next level of coaching or training
Hmm.
partners or what have you, and they move to Milwaukee, and then getting them to the UFC too. And it's been fun. I'm in a unique situation where I get to coach them and I also get to spar them too. You know what I mean? So if I'm not grappling or sparring with them, then I'm coaching, and yeah, I kind of get the full experience. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
uh, really enjoying it while it still lasts. Once I'm done, then I'll just be fully coaching. But it's been cool.
Well, it's nice to see that you kind of have something to fall back on. I mean, like you're no stranger to having previous work and schooling and education and et cetera. But it's nice that, and I think a lot of fighters I've talked to who either work at a gym or want to own a gym, like that's kind of like their plan. That's their back end. I think that's something to fall back on. And I think like there's that idea like even when you retire, you're always going to have that fighting spirit, I think. So coaching is always something to always fall back on. So it's smart of you to do that. Um, no, I guess I read this up on you, so I'm not sure if it's true, but I hear that you have an actual training schedule that you do. Like you'll have something to do in the morning, midday, and then you end with like some kind of like BJJ at the end of the day. Is that true?
Yeah. So obviously, there's a difference between when you're in camp and out of camp.
Of course.
But yeah, like I got a strength and conditioning workout in this morning,
Yeah.
and then this afternoon I'm probably gonna teach a class. Then I'm gonna take kickboxing, and then I'm gonna work one on one with a fighter. You know what I mean? So everything is
Hmm.
kind of like my turn, their turn. You know what I mean? All
Right.
day. So yeah, I mean, I say most of the days I get in 2 workouts a day, and
Hmm.
then when camp starts, then it's like 3 workouts. But I usually do. I don't do 6 days on and then one day off. I do 3 days on and then I take a day off, or I might do something light like maybe a little bit more coaching, or maybe I'll watch tape with fighters. So I'm still like maybe doing like more mental work,
Hmm.
and then 2 days on and then one day like off on Sundays. Like I'm fully off. Like I don't even want to come in the gym at all on those days. It's like a total like mental and physical reset for me. So um, a little less physical, and a little bit more work on the mental side. And
Hmm.
you know, it's not like I'm redlining every practice either.
Right. So
There's some
like
light days, there's some hard days, that kind of thing.
Right. No, I mean, you talk about there's a difference between your training when you're just strictly training, coaching, and then when you're in a camp for a fight. So excuse me, so when you sign a fight for a contract, and you start your camp, so do you kind of just let the other coaches take over? What like how do you balance coaching and preparing for your fight?
At the beginning, I teach just as much. Maybe when I'm like 6 to 8 weeks out, I'm still teaching just as much. But instead of teaching a jiu-jitsu class and then watching guys roll and helping them coach them and make corrections and stuff,
Mhm.
I'll roll, and I'll make sure to not just like roll a couple times and then be done, but I'll make sure to get like my 5 or 6 hard rolls in with like all the good guys around the gym around my weight class. And then as I get closer and closer to the fight, like when I'm within like 3 weeks, then the other coaches take over the majority of my teaching classes.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because like a lot of people, some of the fighters that I talk to, like they own a gym, but they're more coaching now than anything. I mean, obviously because they're retired, right? So it's easier. No, I another thing I got to ask you about. So I don't know if this is also true, but is it true that you used to be like a bartender and you were working on Wall Street and everything, or is that just bullshit?
No, yeah, no, that's all true. So I was going to school in Colorado for 2 years at the Air Force Academy right after high
Hmm.
school, and then I was going to leave there. A guy, a really good friend of mine in my squadron, was from New York City, and
Yeah.
basically all the kids, all of his friends that he went to high school with, were living in New York, all living together, and all their dads were kind of like stockbrokers and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so there was a job opportunity to take a paid internship as an assistant to these two stockbrokers. So
Nice.
instead of just moving home and like I don't know what to do next kind of thing, kind of I didn't really know what career path I wanted to go to, and I thought, well, this is a great opportunity, probably once in a lifetime. Let me see if I like doing this kind of thing,
Hmm.
and lived out there for almost a year. Uh, and pretty stressful job. It's funny how a lot of this stuff kind of comes around full circle. Um, I hated that job, but then now like I'm really in the stock investing with UFC money.
Yeah.
Actually, I put together a financial seminar for our guys at the gym. Um, I'm in real estate and obviously running small businesses
Yep.
with the promotion in the gym, and then also stock investing and stuff like that. So it gave me some knowledge, to work with for the rest of my life. But as far as a job day in day out, it wasn't really for me. So then once I moved back home, I had kind of switched my focus to possibly like healthcare type job, and then I found jujitsu and Muay Thai right away, and all my focus kind of switched to fighting.
So the BJJ kind of opened up the whole fighting aspect, I guess.
Yeah. I was pretty interested in doing something. I felt like I could still compete at a high level. I always did really well in high school sports. I was doing well in college sports.
Hmm.
And at the college here in Milwaukee, there isn't like a football team or a wrestling team or anything like that. So it's pretty much just a state school where you go to school, but they have a basketball team, but that wasn't my thing. So
Hmm.
I was kind of looking for the next thing to do to compete in, and jujitsu definitely opened the door to MMA. And I went to a local show, so it wasn't so much watching the UFC on TV that got me really interested, but it was going to a local like amateur um, MMA event that got me really wanting to do this.
Hmm. And I wanted your opinion about something. So on that subject, you talk about exploring BJJ, and that kind of got you into the whole MMA game. Um, do you think something like BJJ or some kind of self-defense is something that everyone should kind of learn in their lifetime?
Oh, for sure, because not only is it going to help your self-defense skills if that ever were to happen, but if everyone did it, I think there'd be a heck of a lot less crime out there, because
Hmm.
it just it humbles you, and there's a lot of camaraderie, and you meet all sorts of different kinds of people. um, gives you a kind of an outlet for stress and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize how dangerous some people are. You know, you realize that maybe that person that doesn't look like much actually can totally whoop your ass. And I think people would be much more reluctant to do stupid stuff if they knew what some people were capable of.
Mm-hmm. Well, in a guy that lives in my hometown, he's a up and comer MMA fighter, and he talked about getting his kids in the BJJ, and we talked about how important it is, especially for kids, to get into something like that, because I mean it's good. It's something that I think for kids it gives them something to explore. And if they don't like it, I mean, you can't make a kid like something, but it gives them something to look forward to because it's something that you can build into. It can create something if you want it to, if you work hard enough. But it's also learning like self control, and it teaches self control and respect for others, but for yourself, because it's one of those things where you can either give up or you got to work hard for it and you got to practice. So I think it kind of sets that stone for life. It sets that self-reliance, I think, a little bit. And that's why I think it's important for kids to have some kind of fighting aspect.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of sports can do that for people, and especially for kids.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking, yeah, it's a cool thing because it's an individual sport, but then it also kind of feels like a team because you
Yeah,
represent your gym and stuff together if you go to local competitions. So you're kind of getting like that individual, self responsibility. Like you can't rely on teammates to help you win the game. It's going to be up to you and your hard work and what you've put into this to be successful. But also at the same time, like you can have a lot of friends on the same team and stuff like that. And you can also get like that team aspect
mm-hmm.
to get to, So I think yeah, I think it's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, I just kind of want to move on here. So obviously, I don't want to base on the subject too
There was there
much.
was there was one
Sorry,
thing I just wanted
sorry.
to.
Go
I,
ahead.
I
Go
didn't
ahead.
I didn't answer your other question. Yeah, and then with bartending. So
Oh,
I didn't.
yes.
Yeah. So when I started fighting and I was finishing my bachelor's degree, it was kind of like, okay, if I'm at school all day and then I want to go to the gym all night, like how am I going to make enough money to support myself living on my own? I had roommates like my college buddies and stuff, but like bartending is pretty much a great answer for a fighter because
Mm-hmm.
you can you can make a ton of money in a short amount of time, and it's during the time that you normally don't train, right? Like you don't train at midnight on a Saturday night. Well, okay, I can make a lot of money during that time window.
Mm-hmm.
And then also it prevented me from going out and spending a bunch of money and prevented me from, going out drinking myself and getting hungover or whatever, you know what I mean? So
Of
like
course. Yeah.
it would keep me focused on my Friday, Saturday nights.
Mm-hmm.
I could be making a ton of money instead of spending it, and I wouldn't be out drinking and being like tempted in that way with my friends. But yet you could still kind of get like that social itch scratched. So I think
Mm-hmm.
bartending is a great gig for like up and coming fighters. And not to mention that when I started fighting and having my amateur and my pro fights on the regional scene, anytime I fought in Milwaukee, I knew a bunch of people. And this is another
Mm-hmm.
thing that fighters don't think about. When you're local and you're trying to get fights, if you can sell tickets, you're going to get way more fight opportunities than if you don't sell tickets. That's just the bottom line. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
promoter. I run a local show. If we put together a matchup between two guys and they both don't sell any tickets, it's like these events cost a lot of money to put on,
Mm-hmm.
from the venue to the insurance to everything, right? Um, you want people to sell tickets so that you come out ahead. I don't want to run an event and lose 5 grand. Like I'm not getting any. That's not cool. You know what I mean? Like now I own a gym and I'm trying to get fighters up the rankings to major organizations. And sometimes you kind of gotta, you know, you kind of gotta maybe put a fighter in a fight to get him that next fight, get him a win, even though he doesn't sell tickets, but that's because he's on my team. If you're not if you're not a Pura Vida fighter and you don't sell tickets, like I, I don't really have a reason to put you on a card. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I got a lot of opportunities because I could sell tickets
Right.
locally when I was in my 20s, and a lot of that came because I was in the bar scene. You know,
Hmm.
so I think being a bartender is probably the best job that you can do if you're a regional fighter before you get to that major organization.
Well, and the thing is, the reality is most regional fighters they have to work that second job or whatever. I mean, I really got a good taste of it. I know it's a TV show, but I don't know if you've ever seen that show Kingdom. I think that's what it's
I've
called.
heard of it. I've heard of it, but I never watched it.
Yeah, it's all fiction. It's all it's all fictional, but I mean, they talk. It really digs in the story about showing these regional fighters and how they got to work. Either they got to work at the gym that they're training at, or they're cleaning after, they're doing what kind of jobs, and it kind of really digs into a regional fighter's life and the struggle and the stress and everything and all the things they have to do just to get up to the big leagues. And yeah, and it's I think that's where a lot of fighters, like, that's why you hear about these fighters saying, no, I want the big fight now. I mean, this is my time. I've worked hard to get to where I am, and there's a reason why they say that. So yeah, no, definitely, and I respect that. There's very few fighters that get to the top very quickly. I mean, some just have to work hard for it, or most have to work hard for it. And yeah, no, respect to those fighters like yourself. I mean, that just must be quite the ride.
Yeah, I mean, when I had my first pro fight and fought another really tough amateur that was turning pro. It was both of our pro debuts, and
Hmm.
come to find out years later, we're both UFC veterans, and but one of us at the time had to start out 0-1, and that was me. I lost like a 29-28 decision. So starting out 0-1 and trying to build up out of that hole,
Hmm.
I ended up moving. I lived at the old gym for 4 years. So from the time I went 0-1 until I signed my UFC contract, I lived at the gym.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's
Sometimes
that's
you
quite
gotta
the
do what you gotta do.
that's quite the story, man. But anyway, sorry. I do want to kind of move on just because I don't want to cut into your
No,
training
yeah,
and everything.
yeah. We, we,
But
we got on early, so I'm good. Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't really want to touch on the subject too much. I know it's not like the best subject, but so you got cut from the UFC in 2019. But you
Well, not technically. You can get you can get you can get cut, or they can just not give you a contract for a while.
Oh,
So
is that what happened? That's just how I read it, that you got cut.
so so what happened is, as I fought out my contract and coming off of a loss, they weren't really in a hurry to give me another fight, which would then give me another
Gotcha.
contract.
Okay.
I had blown out my knee, and so I had to have a knee surgery, which took me out for like 9 months, and then COVID kind of happened and stuff like that, and I could have, if I wanted another contract, I basically would have to be ready to go on super short notice at
Hmm.
170 pounds, and I just my body wasn't really working with me too much anymore on getting down to 170, especially on short notice.
Right.
So there was my New Zealand fight that I had in the UFC. I got on like 3 weeks notice, and yeah, I had to lose like 37 pounds in 3 weeks.
That's insane.
And it just, I don't know, it, to possibly jump on a fight in say like 4 days, it would be really difficult for me to just
Hmm.
hang around at a weight class or at a weight where I can make that weight class. And I figured it'd be a great time to transition back to 185. I've
Yeah.
had a lot of fights over 170. I actually haven't had a whole lot of fights at 170 before I got signed to the UFC. All my
Okay.
amateur fights were at 185 except one. Um,
I think you've had one fight at
even
lightweight, right?
no, I've never fought at lightweight.
Okay.
I've never made anything less. I've never weighed less than 170 pounds since I was like a young teenager.
Okay, that goddamn internet is full of lies.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, a lot of stuff can be a lot of people thought that my first fight in the UFC was at lightweight because Josh Berkman was a lightweight, but
That's probably what it was. Yeah.
he came up to 170 for that fight. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was even like some other. There's been so much like people don't get stuff straight all the time. You know what I mean? Like if you look up, so you know how there's some events that you can tell how much the fighters made, and there's some events that you can't tell.
Mm-hmm.
You can look up like salaries per event.
Yeah.
When I fought in Milwaukee, they took my opponent's money and my money and like flipped them. So it makes it look like he made all this money to lose and I didn't make any money. Like it's all reverse and backwards.
Yeah.
Like, so everything is weight classes, money, all sorts of stuff. You can never really tell. Yeah, even a lot of but what I was getting back to, a lot of my pro fights were at like 185, 180, 175, and then I only fought a couple times at 170, and then I got signed in the UFC at 170.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh shit, all right, well, once you sign that, you're locked in at that weight class, right? And then there was a couple times where like, hey, your next UFC fight's in 3 weeks, and it's like, oh shit, like I got some weight to lose, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
and as I'm getting older, I just turned 34. I feel like a much stronger and a better athlete at 185. So I'm going to stay here until I'm done.
Yeah, and I think that's a typical answer from most fighters as they tend to age. I'm not calling you an old man here, okay?
No, I've been, cutting weight for a while and doing contact sports for a while, and it gets to a point, you can only do so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and that's never easy, for sure.
It's another thing why I think heavyweights tend to last longer, which obviously another reason is because power is one of the last things to go, and let's face it, heavyweights can rely a little less on technique, a little bit more on that power, a little less on their speed and stuff, in reaction time, and that's a reason why they last long too. But I think a big part of it is because they haven't been cutting weight like crazy.
And that's where it is, right? I mean,
like think about the Arvlovskis and the Oleniks and stuff, how they've had so many fights and they've been around for so long. They've never cut weight once. You know what I mean? Like they fight at heavyweight. They don't need to cut down to 265. Once they're in shape, they weigh about that 240 range. They've never made it down to 205, and they've never had to cut to 265. They've never done a weight cut. And it's like, man, how can these guys keep going? And they're in like their 60th pro fight, and they've been around for 20 years. And I think weight cutting is a huge thing to do with that.
And I think that's why it's important that some of these guys, and I guess girls, they gotta let that ego go. Like they gotta let the whole, I can cut 20 pounds in like a week. It's like good for you, but what's gonna happen when you get to that age where it's gonna kind of creep up on you, And I mean, I'm just speaking as a fan here. I don't fight, but I mean, just looking at these guys, it's like that big ego. Like, I can do this. It's like, okay, great. I mean, good for you, but if you want that longevity, you need to take care of yourself. So I think actually bringing up Max Holloway again, it was kind of a different subject, but he talked about how, take care of yourself, because the more you get hit, the weight cuts, and, it's one of the things that fighters really need to take into account, and some don't. They really don't think about it. I mean, you're young one day, and then you get to that age where shit. I mean, okay, I only have a couple of years left, or I only have one more year to go, for example. And it's just, people just don't think about that.
Early on, it's some of the fighters around the gym, they come in at 21 years old, and they want to just like spar all the time, and and it's like, hey, just like take it easy, like we only spar once a week here at the gym. Mm-hmm. And we really don't allow like two guys just throwing down hard on each other. I mean, obviously there's a competitive spirit there, and
of course
there's a couple of people in the gym that are known to be a little bit more short-tempered and stuff. So if they get hit with a good one, they want to retaliate with a good one back. And then, fights can get out of hand in the gym and stuff on Saturday mornings. But we do a pretty good job of toning that down and making sure that people are using their skills and using proper defense and not just getting in street fights, when they come to spar. And I think early on it is important to spar. I think first several years in the sport, you have to get used to that contact and proper defense. But once you're at Max Holloway's level, I think days and days of hard sparring right before a fight are probably not going to do anything for you except probably hurt your performance.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know like I trade kind of just lifestyle, but like just the last couple of years, I mean, I'm kind of at a point in my career where I just kind of want to, I don't want to get hurt too much just because where I'm at, the job I have, I take care of people. So, I can't be hurt and I can't be all bruised up. And, I of course, a little bit of bruising you get from rolling or et cetera, a little bit of like sparring is not a big deal, but I can't be having all banged up shins and I can't be all, I can't be limping around. Right. And I remember like we had some, like back in the day, we had some younger guys come out and they're just throwing haymakers and it'd be like a smack. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like you're not training for a fight. Let's just have a light spar. You give me a good one and that's it. And he's just like throwing haymakers and it's like smack. It's like, come on, man. Like
you're not getting paid for this, man. Relax.
Yeah.
Relax. We're on the same team. Same team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where once you get in your mind that like when you take more care of your body, everything kind of just all falls into place. And I've heard a lot talking about sparring. I've heard a lot of fighters talk about they stop sparring and they're a lot better. Like, do you believe in that? Excuse me. Sorry. Let me rephrase. Like they stop sparring and then, and the end result, their fights are a lot better.
Yeah. I like I said, I think it has a lot to do with what your experience level is. When you're an amateur or you've had, some pro fights, I think that's important to do. But like myself and a couple of the older guys on the team that have had a lot of experience, we're talking 25, 30 fights plus, amateur and pro together. It's just not as important anymore. And especially like right before the fight, like 2 weeks, within 2 weeks, you don't want to be taking a ton of contact and then go in there and then take a ton more contact. So usually that last Saturday hard practice that we have before you go into the fight, there's actually no contact on that fighter. There's heavy grappling and then a pad holder that's ready to go. And we'll put you through your rounds where you're like, have to defend takedowns against the wall. Maybe a couple minutes later, you're down on the ground and that next person that comes in on you is like really pushing the pace with your grappling. And then you go to a pad holder and then put out a bunch of volume on the pads. Excuse me. So that 1 week out, we don't want like a ton of contact on the fighter right before he goes into his fight.
Yeah, because I know like there's sometimes where I've seen fights. I remember I was watching some fight in Bellator, and the guy was coming out to the fight. I don't even remember the guy's name. I don't watch Bellator much, but I watched this one guy walking in the cage, and he's all mangled up. I'm like, fuck, man, what are you doing in your training? So, yeah, I hear exactly what you're talking about for sure. I do want to kind of touch upon the Cage Aggression 29. So, how many fights? I know you fought on the card. So, how many fights did you get in that contract? Did they give big contracts? How does that all work out?
With Cage Aggression?
Yes.
It's just one fight per, or it's a fight at a time.
Okay.
So I'm not locked in any contract or anything like that. Just for this one fight, I am.
Okay.
I fought with them way back in the day. I don't know, 2013 or 14 or something like that. And then once I got out, I'm just looking to get some fights at 185 and make my case for getting another contract up at this weight class, kind of prove myself there. And I fought November 20th and got a finish. I got this fight coming up in March. And then we'll see what happens. I'm just going to keep plugging away keep booking fights until the UFC brings me back.
Okay, man. So, Zach, can you talk to me about this fight in March? Who you fighting, and give me your thoughts on the fight.
Yeah, lately, I mean, trying to find fights on the regional level after you've had 8 fights in the UFC isn't always the easiest situation for these promoters. So I'm really thankful for Mike Goodwin to be able to find me some matchups, and thankful for these fighters that are willing to take the fights.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, a lot of these guys, have a lot of experience themselves. So the last guy I fought, I don't had several pro fights, and he had been around for 10 years, stuff like that. And then this guy too on in March, he's got like almost 30 pro fights, and he's been around for like 15 years. So just another experienced guy, looking to go in there and get another finish. On the regional level, I think I finished, I don't know, all but one of my wins, I think, is a finish on the regional level. So I think I've only went to decision with one of my wins. So another finish is what I'm planning for. I never know how it's going to happen. I like that. I like that puzzle that exists in MMA.
Yeah.
I don't think ahead of time about like, oh, I'm going to go in there and land this one combo on him that I've been practicing. It doesn't work like that. I just go in there and I pay attention to my distance and what line I'm on, and gaining my reads on how he's reacting to certain things, and then I just go to work.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, you're definitely not going to land if you're trying to practice something like a walking Buckley knockout. I don't think it's, not very likely he's not going to work out for you. So
yeah, it doesn't really work like that. And I'm also not the person, it's a 15-minute long fight. I've never been the type of person to just go in there and go ham right away and get like a quick 20-second knockout. I like going in there and picking up my reads and figuring my opponent out, and then going to work. So most of my finishes have come either late in the first round or the second round, and that's what I think this fight's going to be.
Yeah. So what is it that you see in his game that you think that like what kind of holes do you see in his game?
Not necessarily like a ton of holes. I mean, it's not like there's been, of course, certain fights where it's like, oh, if I just use my wrestling and get him down, like I think I can submit him. This isn't really one of those fights. He's been around a while. I'm just gonna, I don't know, break the mind and the body will follow.
Yeah, without spoiling what you're gonna do, obviously. Now, just a quick one for you. So let's just kind of talk about your career in general here. So what's kind of been your toughest fight, and what's kind of been your favorite fight that you've had so far?
Of all time, or in
Of
the
all
UFC?
time. Of all time.
um, Favorite fight would have to be either my first fight, oh God, or Frank Schumann. Frank Schumann was fun. We were kind of buddies. We had trained together a couple times, and then when it was looking like we were gonna have to fight each other eventually, there kind of became like this weird distance between us. And then it was finally like, okay, we got to fight each other, and
Yeah.
fought each other. And it was like he always pushes a pace, and he's kind of a annoying little prick. I hope he's watching this. And so, and even if I got a takedown, he was just constant like elbows, punches off of his back, threatening with submissions. I'm trying to pass his guard. It was just like it was a grueling fight. I won the fight, haha. But now we're closer friends now that that fight's over. But it was high paced. It was bloody. My shorts were just covered in blood. It was fun. I went to the locker room and just laid on the cold pavement because I was so fucking exhausted, and it was a fun fight. Toughest fight, I would say.
Or maybe one that didn't, maybe pissed you off the most, or just rough in general.
Yeah, I mean the last UFC fight really pissed me off. Just I've never been in a fight where your body is going to hell on you. Like I've been in fights where I lose a round and I'm like, okay, sit on the stool. let's not let that takedown happen next round. And then if I can get my striking, you know what I mean? Like, even though you're losing, like, you're in the fight, you can still strategize and try to figure out, like, hey, let's make this adjustment to win this fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that last fight in the UFC, it was like my eye was damaged, my left knee was blown out, the other side of my face was shattered, and I'm just in a complete shitstorm. And that was really frustrating. So it's one thing if you're losing in a fight, but if you're getting hurt during a fight, it sucks really bad.
It almost feels like you're losing twice in a way. Like
Yeah.
you lost a fight and your body's going with it as well. So it's almost like not only did I lose, but I also got beat down while I lost as well. And I think that can be really frustrating. I could see how that could be frustrating.
Yep. Long recovery with the knee. I couldn't look my left for about 4 months without having double vision, and not knowing in hindsight if I was ever going to get that vision back 100%. Yeah, that was really frustrating. And also with it being the last fight of my contract, and then they weren't looking to get me another fight anytime soon and stuff. It was like, man, it was tough to come back from. But here we are. I'll be back. 185.
185 in March. Here we go.
Yep.
And yeah, so I guess you talk about you have your fight in March. So what does 2021 have for Zak Ottow in store?
I'm gonna win this fight in March. I don't know, maybe get another one booked in May. I'm gonna win that one, and we're just gonna keep winning. And I bet I'll be in the UFC by summer.
And you're gonna make your comeback.
And I'm gonna win that one. Get my first bonus in my 9th fucking fight finally. I finish everyone on the regional level, and then I get to the UFC, and I keep going these stupid split decisions. So I'm kind of over that, and excited to look forward to some bonuses my way.
There you go. And so, say UFC resigns you again, and so like, are you just gonna stay at 185? And if you do go back to UFC?
Yep.
And let's just say hypothetically, you get back in the UFC. And you're fighting at 185. How excited would you be to kind of fight in a division as it is right at the moment? I mean, it's exciting. It's just stacked.
Yeah, it is getting stacked. A lot of the weight classes are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming from a very stacked weight class at 170. In the UFC,
yeah.
It's extremely stacked. So, no, I think it's good. I would be excited to get some big wins and get a number next to my name for sure at 185, and have some matchups against some of those guys.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm excited for you, man. I know that you're gonna get more wins in, and you're gonna be back in the UFC in no time. I just want your quick thoughts. I've been asking every fighter. Obviously, I mean, I think I'm just gonna expel the elephant in the room. I mean, big fight on Saturday. Poirier and McGregor. I mean, anybody that's in MMA knows who McGregor is. So, I mean, give me your thoughts. Who you got in this fight?
I think Poirier has been doing a great job evolving as a fighter, and I mean, he's looking better and better. But I think just stylistically, I don't think it's a great matchup for him. I think Conor's going to win again. With Dustin relying on his boxing and high volume, he's going to give those counter opportunities to Conor, and I think Conor's going to easily control the center of the cage like he normally does. Dustin kind of tends to float around the outside a little bit, and I think it's only going to be a matter of time before that left hand hits, and it's going to be good for Conor, I think.
Yeah, and I think every person I've asked has kind of basically said the same thing. I mean, I think we all can agree that Poirier, I can't talk today. Poirier is not the same fighter that he used to be like 5 years ago. Especially when they last fought at UFC 178, I believe. He's definitely not the same fighter. I mean, he's come back, but I think one of the issues I see in Dustin's game is that he tends to get hit a lot when he wins these fights. He tends to get in these crazy brawls, and unfortunately, that's kind of something where Conor capitalizes. And unfortunately, that left hand, man, I wouldn't want to get a hit by him. That's just what I'm saying here.
Yeah. And going back to that weight cut thing, there was a couple times Poirier would get hurt when he was down at 145, and all of a sudden he goes up to 55, and he can take these punches, it seems like, from everybody, and win these little these technical brawl
Yeah.
exchanges. But I don't think he's going to be able to withstand, the counter punch. So I think Connor's going to win this one.
And I agree too. And I think looking at how McGregor is, I think he's dialed in. He's focused. Even looking at him, he's a father now. Or he has been for a while, but he's really apparently got his shit together. He's not punching old guys in the bars and not throwing dollars at the bosses. And I find like he's finally kind of got everything wrapped together, and hopefully, besides what he's done outside the cage, I'm excited to see what kind of fight he's going to bring, how he's going to look, because I know that fight with him and Khabib was not Conor at all. As much as Khabib's good, I don't think Conor brought 100% to that fight.
I think, was that maybe one of the first rounds that Khabib lost?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and he did look kind of slow, like timing was off and stuff like that. So, Khabib is Khabib, though, but he makes everybody look slow. But
yeah, that's true. But you know what, Zach, I do appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know you got to get to training pretty soon. Yeah. So thank you for taking the time to come on my podcast. It's been a pleasure having you on. And, good luck with your fight in March. Working your way back up, and hope nothing but the best for you, brother.
I appreciate it, man. Good talking to you, Luke. Anytime.